Good afternoon, Tigers. It is a pleasure and an honor to be with you on this election campaign season. I like when there's more people here. It's a nice audience. I see in the front row we've got some of our best questioners ready. I hope you're ready to ask some good questions today. Like I said, the rules are going to be that you're going to get a minute introduction. You know how I like it. I like to give you all the opportunity to ask as many questions as possible. So I will get out of the way and not like Lester Holt get out of the way, but I will get out of the way and try and let you ask as many questions as possible. But I do reserve the right to follow up, and I do reserve the right to maybe ask an additional question if I think the answer as by the candidate is not to the question you asked. And then we'll end with a little fun rapid fire. And so it's unfortunate, and I have to note that two candidates are not here. Jennifer Webb, who's running against Kathleen Peters, had a very serious health issue and had to cancel. And I think she's missed an opportunity with that, but we wish her and her family the best. But I do have to point out that the Democrat running against Latvala is not here today, and he specifically objected to one of my previous questions, and that was J.B. Bensmead, who was running for District 68. He's a transplant from Palm Beach, and so I asked him if he could name the mayor before Rick Reisman, and he could not. And I asked him to name a favorite restaurant on 4th Street, which he could not. And he said that those questions were not serious. Whether or not they're serious or not, I think that they illustrate whether a candidate knows our community, which I think Tiger Bay is especially proud of. This is the Suncoast Tiger Bay. There's a Tallahassee Tiger Bay, etc. So I will continue to ask those kinds of questions as they go forward. I saw in the David Jolly, Charlie Crist campaign that Adam Smith asked that same kind of question. I'm a member of the Capitol Press Corps. If a candidate up here cannot answer my questions, they are going to have a hard time dealing with more savvy reporters like Gary Fineout, Steve Bosquet, etc. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Representative. Let's go in order of 26. Yes, we'll start with Representative Larry Ahern, Republican. For a 1-minute introduction, please.
Good afternoon, Tiger Bay members. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here with you, and our moderator, Mr. Peter Schorsch, who is all things online in Context Florida, Florida Policy, Florida Politics, Sunburn, and St. Peter Walk, and Influence Magazine. Good stuff.
Thank you very much.
I've been a state representative for District 66 for 6 years now. It's been a real honor and privilege to serve in that capacity. I think the body of work over that 6 years speaks for itself, but I'll just talk a little bit about what happened during this past session, some interesting things. We reformed the PSC, which will save $600 million to the ratepayers of Duke Energy. We also, cut taxes. I see I only have 10 seconds. I used up too much time. But we also invested $550 million in Pinellas transportation agencies. I think that's a real plus.
Running against Representative Ahern is Lorena Grizzle, whose mother was the first woman elected to the Florida House of Representatives, I believe.
First Republican woman.
First Republican woman elected to that. So thank you very much for being here.
Yes, I see I'm the only Democratic candidate here. So I'm also the only Democratic candidate here for these 3 districts who qualified by petition, and we went out to 5,000 doors to do that. And I'm a teacher. I work over at Mildred Helms Elementary in Largo. I'm a single mom with 1 child in college, and I work 2 jobs. So I have my finger on the pulse of the community, and I hope I can earn the vote of some people who live in my area. But I'm out there working very hard, and we hope to get our vote students. I have one of the best campaign managers, and I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of my team. I want to thank you all for having me here today so I can talk about that.
Thank you for coming. Next up is running in District 67. Is running for a 2nd term. It is Chris Latvala.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you all very much for inviting me It's an honor to speak with you all today and hear from your questions. The main thing about being a public servant is you have to learn to represent everybody, people that agree with you, people that don't agree with you. And I look forward to giving you all specific examples where I've put my community above my party, as I've done the last 2 years. And I'm sorry that my opponent does not respect y'all enough to be here. But he is a transplant from Palm Beach County. He's lived here for a year. He ran for Congress in Rhode Island in 2012, then moved to West Palm Beach where law office is currently located. And since that time has changed his political party 4 different times. So I look forward to telling y'all both about myself and the data that is president.
And running in District 69, which is kind of our beach district, my friend Kathleen.
Good afternoon, it's great to be here, and you always have a big crowd here at Tiger Day. You know, you all know me, I've been here many, many times, and I've been a part of this community for over 30 years. But what I would tell you I accomplished in this last year, in the last couple of years, I'm really, really proud of. Our sheriff and our public defender demanded that I reform the entire mental health system in the state of Florida. And that was no easy task, and I didn't realize how big of a deal this was, and that mental health and addiction are the it is the number one thing that is consuming resources in every sector. And so I spent 2 years, the last 2 years since I saw you last, touring prisons, mental hospitals, and forensic facilities where the criminally insane are kept. When I was done, in the beginning I came out with a 5-year plan to reform the entire mental health system. And I figured it was going to take me 5 years. I did it in 2 years, and I got more done in 2 years than I ever dreamed I could ever get done in 5. So I'm really proud to be able to come back and talk to you a little bit more about that.
All right, and here's our first curveball of the afternoon. Representative Peterson, stand up. We're going to work it back this way. I'll start with one question, and then we'll get Chandra going, because I don't know if I see her or not. Oh, right there. Okay, I saw you drinking, so which is nothing new. Nothing new. Representative, this is a question for all 4 of you, so you can answer. Which is a greater threat to Florida's environment? The sewage spill in St. Petersburg or the sinkhole episode in Mulberry?
That's a really good question, because both of them are a true risk and threat. The sinkhole, if that contamination gets in our water table, that's a problem for all of us. And water is one of our most precious basic needs and resources that we need. The sewer system, my concern with the sewer system, I think it's the number one crisis in this area. What concerns me the most is when we had a delegation meeting, the DEP reported that of all of the sewer spills in the state of Florida for this year, Pinellas County is responsible for more than half of all of the total spills around the state. And that's going to cause more algae blooms, bacteria, and what that will do, bacteria that's resistant to antibiotics, is going to hurt our tourism industry. It's going to hurt our quality of life. We have spent too many decades trying to clean up our waterways. Tampa Bay, it took decades to get that clean and back up to the 1950 levels of nitrogen. And how dare we go backwards?
Thank you. Representative Latvala?
Thank you very much. They both are very important, and they both are crises. And I believe yesterday Governor Scott issued an order saying that the public needs to be immediately notified when either a sewer spill or a sinkhole of that magnitude happens. And as for the dumping that's going on in St. Petersburg, the city administration still is not being truthful to the extent of what was going on and what happened. But it's unconscionable what happened. Last year during the session, I met with Yolanda Roman, who's a city council member in Gulfport, which is an area that I do not represent, but she's from my community and from my county, so I met with her. And she told me about the sewer crisis, or the sewer issues that are happening in Gulfport. St. Petersburg has never mentioned that to any of the legislators. And so that they just need to be more forthright and
Thank you.
First of all, addressing the sewer thing, my mother was the person who actually first got the sewage stock being dumped into Tampa Bay, and that was in the 70s. So this is a temporary thing. It's not the most dangerous thing that can happen. But what I don't know if you all know, I'm also an artist. My opponent took $500 from Florida Phosphate Pack, and that is probably the worst thing that we have going on now, because that sinkhole now is 750 feet deep, they think. It's going in the aquifer with gypsum and with the radioactivity, and it's got sulfites and sodium. It's the worst thing that can happen down. I would hate to live down water from that area. So that is one of our most dangerous things. In fact, our public drinking water safety is one of the worst, least addressed things in the legislature now, and I intend to change that.
Representative Baker.
Thank you. I think we know and have studied somewhat and demanded some accountability for the St. Petersburg spills and around the county. So this one, as I read the story this morning on this phosphate line storage, 215 million gallons being stored on property, and the sinkhole opens up. I think we need to know more about just this kind of type of storage. How many of these are being stored? Demands more accountability from this particular type of industry. So, if successful this election, I plan to make sure that we take care of our drinking water more in a stronger manner with these types of businesses that could possibly threaten our ability to make sure that we have clean water and drinkable water.
Thank you. That's your microphone. You're good. All right, Chandra, you're ready. All right, can I see hands on? Oh, right there. Commissioner Ken Welch and then Grizzle.
Good afternoon, Ken Welch, and thank you for your service. Peter mentioned an imminent threat of sewage and a sinkhole. Almost 1 million Floridians face another imminent threat, and that is the threat of getting sick without health care insurance. The Florida House has stood in the way of Medicaid expansion despite bipartisan efforts on the Senate side. What will you do to address that imminent threat that 1 million Floridians and 50,000 Pinellas citizens face every day?
And that's directed to
Everyone.
everyone. Okay. We'll start with Chris Latvala, and then we're left back to Kathleen.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for that question. Medicaid in Florida expands every year without government involvement. It's the largest part of our budget. As to your other question about what would we do for health care, there's a couple bills that the House passed last year. One was direct primary care, which said that a business can give money directly to a doctor or physician for services that their employees can take advantage of and get rid of kind of middlemen. So there's that bill. There's another bill that Representative Sproul sponsored that passed and is now law for healthcare transparency costs. So people know exactly how much money a knee replacement costs or an exam. Because oftentimes, if you don't have insurance, there's a different price than if you do have insurance. And so it just makes it accountability, and so people know what they're getting.
Yeah. Miss?
Well, in my website, you know that I support Medicaid expansion. I have for several years now. The people you're hurting are the classroom assistants, you're hurting the bus drivers, you're hurting the cafeteria workers, you're hurting a lot of people by not having that spending. And a study has shown that 8% tax is really what we're being paid, what we are paying on this because we don't have it. It's about $1,200 per person per year. So if you look at the, and then I want to tell you about my sister who passed away because she couldn't get Medicaid expansion. Her hospital bill was $50,000 before she died. And the Medicare came in, picked it up because it was renal failure in the end. And we paid $50,000 for something that could have been prevented for $500 plus the cost, the tragedy of losing her life. So yes, I am for Medicaid expansion. Thank you, Shinwell, for bringing that up.
We've looked at the Medicaid expansion for a couple of years now and have worked in the House to come up with some of our own programs that would cover the people most vulnerable in it. Remember, Medicaid was a safety net. It wasn't designed to be a total insurance policy. And that's the part that I think we always tend to forget about. We've done some things that will allow for private health insurers to come in. We proposed some plans that would subsidize these, some healthcare accounts that people could draw on to set up to be able to participate in regular, real insurance, the ones that you, like you and I have, that would really benefit from this this type of program. So we'll continue to work on more transparency, some free market solutions, and sadly, as the federal government has discontinued the LIP program, the low-income pool, to us in order to try to force Medicaid expansion on us, we'll continue to backfill that as well.
Thank you, sir.
We get this question every time, and I've told you that I've called out to doctors, and there are not doctors available on Medicaid. And I just did a whole study throughout the whole state, and if you could find me a psychiatrist that will take Medicaid, it is far and few between. We can't even find psychiatrists that will take insurance. And I went on a tour at a naval base in Pensacola, and I looked at a company, and they had 400 employees. And what's great about this company is 80% of their employees must be either disabled, developmentally disabled, or mentally ill. And I interviewed these employees, and one of them was a woman who started there wiping tables. It's a union job. She was making $10.61 when she started. She's now been 5 years being promoted to dishwashing section number 4, and she's a supervisor of that dishwashing section. And I asked her, what is so great about this new job? And she said, the best part about this job and being here, other than being with other people like me, is I no longer have Medicaid. I have real insurance with my job, and for the first time I have access to a doctor, and I can see a doctor, and I have great care, and I feel good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bruce, we're going to go right here.
Bruce Marger. A couple of observations first.
Bruce, question, please, with respect. With respect, just go directly to your question.
Inasmuch as we have the distinction of the Pulse nightclub being the greatest act of terror in terms of single shooter, inasmuch as Marion Hammer is probably the strongest, most person in the state, what do you intend to do regarding assault weapons and high-powered weapons?
Ms. Grizzle, we'll start with you and go to Representative Ahern. Thank you.
Well, now that you mentioned Marion Hammer, I think that we're going to see a legislature without passing anymore, except perhaps we can get the assault ammunition ban, the high capacity ammunition. That would be a big start. I don't expect much more to happen, but I will continue to work for gun safety, and I would like to see high-powered rifles. Actually, we need to get rid of it at the moment.
I'm going to add on a question with that. Do you support or oppose open carry?
I oppose open carry, and I'll tell you, I can't imagine that we want to show that our kids that role model.
Thank you.
You know, it's you know, the gun bills have always been some of the most controversial and hard votes to take, even sometimes, especially with these types of tragedies in our state and other states as well. You know, and I don't know that you know, banning weapons are the answer to all these. You know, that always seems to be the first reaction. The knee-jerk reaction is to, you know, start banning things. And we know it's a Second Amendment right, so it's not something that we would take lightly. I think we have to do a better job of making sure that the people who interview this, I saw the FBI report today, and they didn't even check the Facebook of these kind of folks where it was obvious that they were a problem. And so I think we have to do a better job of making sure that the people who are out to hurt us are stopped prior to that happening. And
on open carry?
Open carry, you know, I supported it in the committee, and Florida used to be an open carry state, and maybe you didn't know that, and they fought against it, and now we're debating whether it should be again. So I think we look at you know, I keep my options open on it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Representative Peters, on the first question, and then answer the open carry question at the end.
You know, I don't support going against the Constitution. And if you could tell me one other Constitution amendment that we can arbitrarily go in and cut it and cut it and cut it. We can't do it on the First Amendment. Can't do it on the First Amendment. And so if you can tell me an amendment, a constitutional amendment, one of our rights, that we can do that to, we can't. And so I have lots of reservations when it comes to taking away our constitutional rights. And I heard this debated, and it was a great debate, because the freedom of press and freedom of speech, we don't get to do that. And so I do have great concern. I'm not a fan of assault weapons. It's not something I'm a fan of. Open carry, I support fixing the glitch with the open carry, but I'm not a fan in anywhere walking down the beach, somebody carrying a gun in the wide open. But I do support fixing the glitch so that people aren't criminalized when there's an accidental exposure.
I'm not going to debate you, but I do believe there are modifications to the Fourth Amendment quite often in the First Amendment. But go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank looking at you.
Thank you for the question, Bruce. If you want to ask what Mary Hammer thinks of me, you should ask her. And she will tell you that it's not, she doesn't look at me very highly. Matter of fact, she called me a betrayer of the Second Amendment in an email blast to her members. There's been 3 times that I can think of off the top of my head where I stood against the NRA. 2 years ago, I was the only Republican in our Criminal Justice Committee that voted in support of Darrell Rousson's bill to ban backyard gun ranges that spurred up because of St. Petersburg. So I stood alone that time. This past year, I was the deciding voting committee that killed changing Stand Your Ground, and it would have given more burden on the prosecutors to prove that somebody wasn't standing their ground if they claimed that. So I stood against the NRA that time too. And as for open carry, I voted against it not once, not twice, but 3 times this year. In the next coming weeks, when the NRA reveals their report card, I assume that not only will I be the lowest rated Republican, but it'll be very similar to my college output rating. So
Thank you very much. I'm looking right behind you, Sean. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay. She knows how I feel today. I'm Terry Bryan, and when the Constitution was written, the kind of guns that were used were not assault rifles, etc. So my question to you would be, how many of you are receiving funds, or have received funds from the NRA or the insurance company?
Representative Ahern, have you accepted a contribution from the NRA or an insurance company?
I have not.
Okay. Representative Peters, contribution. Have you received any contributions from the NRA on the insurance companies?
Or insurance companies? Which insurance companies? I mean, there's homeowners insurance, and there's health insurance.
Can you like what? Gun insurance companies, or just any
Any of them.
progressive?
I'm just passing access.
Okay. Yeah, insurance or gun. Have you accepted a check from?
I've accepted checks from the insurance companies. I'm not sure about the NRA.
Okay.
Don't recall.
I have not received a dime from the NRA, and I don't expect to. As for the insurance companies, I do remember getting a check from a health insurance company 2 years ago. And in fact, this past session, I told them that if they did not cover a 4-year-old little girl in my district, that I would never speak to them again. So if you want to, call me beholden to that, so be it. But that company hasn't given me a dime this year, and I don't expect it.
Thank you.
I haven't accepted a dime from insurance or the NRA, and I think you might want to change your answer about the insurance.
Yeah, State Farm, I have taken a check from State Farm Insurance. I thought you were talking about, there's a gun insurance that was reported. I thought that's what you were talking about.
All right, great. Miss.
Helen Riley.